The guest is Dr. LMadu5, the editor of the Pan-African Journal and a professor of international law. And of course, Dr. LMadu5, let's pick up where we left off the last time, dealing with the implications of Chinese economic expansion in Africa. I think you've already laid out the history of China-Africa relationships, but let's talk about the current kind of situation that we find dealing with that relationship.
Yeah, you know, what is happening now is that because of China's growth, you know, economically, it needs more goods and services to feed and take care of 1.3 billion population. But of course, how did China get here, you know, to become such a preeminent economic power in such a short period of time?
Since 1949.
Exactly. Remember, the Communist Revolution was in 1949, and this is, you know, 2008. What happened was that, you know, when the communists came to power, Mao Zedong believed in a theory called politics first. Deng Xiaoping, who was the Secretary General of the Chinese Communist Party, you know, believed in economics first. And both of them didn't see eye to eye. So that was the reason for the Cultural Revolution in China in the 1960s. Mao Zedong wanted to eliminate all opposition, those who believed in economic, you know, economic development first. He believed in political independence and development first, economics second. Deng Xiaoping and Liu Shaoqi believed in economics first.
Okay.
So when Mao Zedong died, you know, in 1976, he was replaced by a guy called Hua Guofeng. Hua Guofeng wanted to continue with the policies of Mao Zedong, but the supporters of Deng Xiaoping, you know, didn't want that to continue. So what happened was that they conspired against him, removed him from power, and returned Deng Xiaoping to power. When Deng came back to power, the first thing he enunciated was what was called the four modernization. Modernizing economy, you know, agriculture, science and technology, the military, and all that. That's what gave China its economic leap forward. This was in about 1978 when he articulated his policy of modernization. You know, because Deng Xiaoping understands that a country cannot develop unless the agricultural sector is developed, because you have to have agricultural products to, you know, feed
the people.
Exactly, feed the people and feed the industries. That's why slaves came to the United States and others to build agriculture for industrial takeoff. So Deng emphasized these things. And moreover, he intermarried capitalism with communism. Okay, yeah. He said, hey, you know, we can develop, people can make money, as far as they don't challenge the primacy of the Communist Party. Okay? One country, two systems. He did it with Hong Kong, the same way with Hong Kong.
Okay.
Hey, no problem, let people in Hong Kong make all the money they want. As
long as they don't challenge, they're good.
Okay? That's what the Russians would have done. That's why people in Russia were mad about Gorbachev not having done the same thing. Okay? So that's what brought China where it is now. Today in Africa, we have about 1 million Chinese working in Africa. Almost 1 million Chinese in Africa. Building roads in Kenya. Building hydropower stations in Ghana. Mobile phones. Building mobile phones in Ethiopia. 45% of the offshore oil reserves in Nigeria are owned by Chinese. There are about 50,000 Chinese in Nigeria alone. Much more than the British colonialists in Nigeria during independence. Okay? Today, trade volume between China and Africa is $59 billion. Third only to the United States and France. Okay?
Good.
China is Africa's third largest trading partner today, with about $59 to $60 billion in trade. Okay? And this is a large sum of money. The Tanzam Railway that carries, you know, goods from the port of Dar es Salaam to Zambia and the rest, and copper from Zambia to the port in Dar es Salaam was built by the Chinese free of charge.
So that they could get that,
exactly. So they
could get those products.
Landlocked African countries can have access to the sea. That was when the Portuguese were in control of Mozambique. So in case they didn't allow, Zambia and Rhodesia to export through Mozambique, then they can go through, ship it through the Chinese did that, and free of charge. Now, in 2000, the first forum on Sino-African relationship was held, in Beijing, with over 48 African presidents attending. Before you normally have Franco-Africa Summit. Every year, France and, these African groups have a meeting. Now, China and Africans
all get together.
The first one was in 2000. The third one was in 2006. And in fact, after the 2006 meeting, President Hu Jintao of China said, hey, China is going to give African countries about $3 billion in grants and loans, and about $2 billion, in credits, export credits for them to, import Chinese goods. So that's where the relationship stands today. You have about almost 10,000 Chinese medical personnel in Africa today. Doctors and nurses in Tanzania, in Zambia, in Mozambique, in Somalia, in Ethiopia.
All over Africa.
You name it, exactly. And in fact, the copper industry in Zambia now is controlled by the Chinese. Yeah, after it collapsed, the Chinese came into resources. So they run the copper business now in Zambia.
My goodness.
Yeah. So their economic interest in Africa now is very extensive, and this is causing some problems and some anxiety, between the United States and France and Britain.
I would imagine that it should be high anxiety.
Exactly. It's very high anxiety because the Chinese most of the time give loans to African countries on basis that the United States and France could not. You see. And most of the oil now in the Sudan, in Nigeria, in Angola, in Gabon, France is, China is competing.
Dr. LMadu, let's make preparations for this this second commercial break. After we come